Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Tara, welcome to Consulting Leaders.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Let's jump straight into it.
Great.
What got you into coaching and consulting, and how did you end up focusing on leadership and team development, Tara?
Yep. So I actually got into the leadership development area just by accident. My undergrad degree, it was actually finance and accounting, and I was actually working as an accountant for a company in the finance department, and they came to our department and said, we need someone to teach managers how to read budgets. They do not understand what they're looking at. And so I thought that sounded interesting to help teach and help adults kind of learn something new. And so that is how I initially got into this work. After doing that in corporate America for many, many years, I left as I was a training manager and kind of felt like I had hit my limit of what I could offer in that role. And I wanted to impact way more people and really scale kind of a lot of the ideas that I had for developing others. So I went out on my own. That was in 2001 and started my own consulting and training company.
So I don't know why, well, I know very well why, but I have a little something for people who are in business for a couple of decades, because that means they have ticked the longevity box, right? And
yes,
kind of know what they are doing. And when you're able to go through literally multiple crises, multiple changes in market, multiple technology advancements, literally, it makes me believe they have figured a thing or two about business. So maybe before we get there, what is the problem that you solve now since 2001? Like, what is it that you're helping people achieve exactly?
Yeah. I would say, and it's in the simplest way, we really focus on human connection, and that is becoming more of a priority in corporate America and in workplaces due to technology and, of course, all of the changes that we're seeing with AI. We are really just noticing at every level, from executive level to frontline leaders, they need support in understanding how do humans connect? What do we need to make that connection, to build high levels of trust? Because at the end of the day, trust is a competitive advantage, period. End of story. So the companies that have it, where they have alignment, they allow for discourse, they, allow people to debate and have different points of view. They want to hear from everyone. They want to make sure they are leveraging all the skill sets and the knowledge in the room, and conflict is good. And we still walk away at the end of the day, trusting each other, caring about each other, really. And that is a big piece that we do, from executives to, as I mentioned, frontline. So it is becoming more and more of a priority. Human intelligence is certainly where we're kind of focused in terms of our thought leadership. And that is something that can never replace artificial intelligence. So we really need to prioritize that and keep helping people build those muscles of emotional intelligence, empathy, understanding, listening, communication, having discourse, being able to discuss difficult things, being able to understand what alignment looks like. Those things are becoming much more important and necessary to combat some of these massive, massive changes that we're seeing, because you cannot move quickly if you don't have those things. So
talk to me about trust. What does that even mean in 2026 and beyond? The reason I'm asking that, Tara, and if we can angle the answer on this, is I think it's extremely hard to build now for multiple reasons that you're probably going to break down. And how do what are the tools that consultants can leverage to build that trust?
Yeah, I use a couple tools. First of all, we have to understand does trust exist, or where is where are we on the continuum? And when we talk about trust, I lean in on Patrick Lencioni's work. He wrote the book, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. I am a certified facilitator of some of his work. So he has an assessment around trust that I use. And one of the things he discusses is really there's two types of trust: vulnerability-based trust and predictive-based trust. And predictive trust is if we're working together and you say, I'm going to get you this report by 3 o'clock on Thursday, I can predict that you will do what you said you're going to do. And that's important, right? On a team, if we're working as a team, we impact each other's work, we are part of each other's daily workflow. I have to know that if I'm expecting something from you so that I can get my piece done, that you're going to give it to me when you say you're going to give it to me. So that is a very important aspect of team dynamics and team trust. But the more important piece of trust that is harder to develop and is trickier is vulnerability-based trust. And that is the more emotional kind of connection between two people and a team, where I'm willing to say, I screwed up. You're better at this than me. I don't know how to do this, right? I'm in over my head. I made a mistake. And my team is there to support me, to help me, not throw me under the bus, not tell me, that I'm a complete failure, right? And but rather jumps in to help me, because if we can all work together, we're going to have the best outcome. But vulnerability-based trust is hard, right? Especially when people feel, if I am vulnerable at all, it's a weakness, or it shows, maybe people will think I am in a job that I shouldn't be, or I'm not skilled enough. That is not true. Actually, the research shows us that the more human we are with each other, which we make mistakes, we ask for help, that actually builds deeper levels of trust between people than predictive trust. So we always start with assessments to see where are people in terms of, that continuum of trust. And there's a lot of components that go into that. Am I reliable, right? Am I open to feedback? Am I willing to give feedback? Am I willing to hear what you have to say? So there's a lot of things that we measure that help us actually assess where trust is. For example, at the executive level, I use a survey called the Team Alignment Survey. And if there is trust issues at the executive level, a lot of times they can be related to a variety of things that are difficult to see on the surface. It's kind of like the iceberg, right? We're only seeing the tip, not what's underneath. And so we measure, is there clarity and approval at the executive level around people's roles on the team, the executive team, their responsibilities? Do people, are they clear and aligned around the vision and the values of the organization? Do they approve of them? So clarity and approval are the two things we're measuring. Priorities and roles. So am I clear, and do I approve of the roles on this team and the priorities that we've discussed? So you can imagine, if there is a lack of clarity or a lack of approval at the executive level, that is very quickly going to impact trust, not just at that team, but imagine these people are responsible for communicating direction throughout the organization. It is impacting trust all the way down through the organization. So there's lots of different tools that we use to kind of figure out what is the trust issue that we're dealing with.
Who do you help, Tara? Who benefits from all this in your world?
We help we help a lot of different companies in a lot of different industries. I would say our sweet spot is mid-sized organizations, but we work even with Fortune 150 companies. I've built very custom programs for executive succession planning, leadership programs for pretty big companies that are you would definitely know, and we really try, again, we're focused on ensuring that connection is easy for leaders to make. They have tools to do it. They have language to do it. They have frameworks to do it. We help them practice. We help them understand kind of what their baseline is right now and where they need to work on things. We can do 360s, lots of different personality assessments, but we really do help, I would say, a few different levels in the organization. From the organizational level, we can come in as a consulting company and get a pulse on what's happening with your culture. So we definitely do culture surveys and understand kind of the levels of employee passion that you have. And I like passion more than engagement because engagement's been kind of overused, but it's really helpful to understand and get a pulse on how passionate are the employees that work for us. And when we talk about passion, we're measuring, are they just passionate about their job, or are they actually passionate about the organization? If we want to try to have both, right? But a lot of times what we find, people love the work they do. They may not be committed to your company. And that's not good, because if the company down the street says, hey, we got the same job for you and we're going to pay you 10% more, they'll go, right? So it's really important that we have an understanding of the health of our culture, where that's breaking down, so we can do some organizational assessments in that regard. As I mentioned, we work with a variety of teams from the executive level to different leadership teams. We've also done some work with just intact teams that are responsible for driving important business initiatives forward. We've been doing a lot of work with teams who are going through mergers and acquisitions, because they are either acquiring a ton of new team members, teams are being totally dismantled and restructured in a new way. It's causing a lot of disruption, chaos. They completely lose their footing and that trust that I talked about. So what we try to do is come in, rebuild that as quickly as possible, get that team to become as cohesive as they can quickly, get them rallied around a new vision, help them kind of define what are our values, how do we want to work together, what does that look like, right? And make sure, start working on trust so that they can very quickly get up to speed. The faster we can do that, the faster they're going to have positive results. And then we do a lot of custom work, mostly in the leadership realm. So we build a lot of programs for succession planning. In particular, we've been working recently on some executive development succession planning initiatives where, companies are really nervous about who are our next level executives, and have we prepared them? And the answer is resoundingly no, they are not prepared. So executive development is becoming extremely important. So we are building some pretty custom programs with simulations to really help them understand a shift in mindset, a shift in perspective, much more of a systems kind of thinking perspective, to be able to move into that executive role and improve their readiness for that role more quickly than they would be. So those are a couple things.
Yeah. So I was going to say moving targets. I don't think that's the term. You have multiple entry points, multiple type of companies you can potentially work with multiple different approaches and offerings, which makes sense. Like, as you build a business, right, you expand your offering and so on. You solve a problem for a client, and then they find out that it's good. They solve that first problem, but from solving that problem, they get other problems, which is a good thing to have, because you solve the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. How do you market, Tara? How do you brand? How do you get leads, basically, those ICPs, those decision makers knocking on the door? I'm not talking about sales yet, but really, like, how do you get attention and how do you trigger conversations with the right people? What has worked for you?
Yeah. We've done a variety of things. So each of them has worked occasionally in different ways. I would say the number one thing is still referrals based on the relationships that we have built with our clients. So the majority of our clients stay with us for 5 to 10 years, which is a really long relationship for a consulting company. We don't tend to just go, I mean, certainly we go in and do one-off projects as needed. However, I would say where we are making the biggest difference is working with these organizations where we become their strategic partner and advisor for years and years, because we can offer so many different things from a consultative, model. And we have a lot of highly skilled coaches and facilitators, executive consultants that can help in that regard. Those referrals to other business leaders have really been the crux of our growth for 25 years. I have also written a few books. I do keynote speaking on a variety of topics. And we are constantly marketing, just getting my thought leadership out there. So if you follow us on LinkedIn, I'm constantly doing videos. I'm keeping people engaged in what we're doing. It's really important, even if I'm not able to tie that, all of that thought leadership is directly getting me a new client. I know it is making a difference, and it's making my clients more confident in referring me to someone else, because I'm out there, right? I'm on top of what's happening in the industry and in the marketplace. They are watching me. They're listening to me. They know that I have a lot to offer from a strategic, learning and development perspective, and they feel confident and comfortable referring me to other clients. But we've done, and we continue to do, a lot of different things. I would say referrals tend to be, and return. Our clients have been with us for 90% of them come back and continue to do business with us for years. That's been, how we've grown consistently over time.
So I like this section because that's where I get to push back a bit.
Mm-hmm.
For me, referrals is not per se an acquisition channel. Here is why. Getting referrals as a coach or consultant is an indicator that you're doing a good job, to the point that people are literally recommending your services to other people they know or when they ask, which is great. And if you're not having referrals, you should fix the offer and potentially work on doing a better job. So yes. Again, looking at you building the business for a couple of decades, obviously you're doing a good job if you're getting referrals and have grown mainly thanks to them. I'm interested though in keynote speaking, content, books. When you started thinking about branding and authority, because this is really what this is about, right? It's not a direct call to action into book a call with us so we can sell you, right? It's building that thought leadership, that authority. How did you choose the channels where you decided to, put some efforts in? Keynote speaking, content on LinkedIn, writing a book. Easier nowadays with AI, but writing a good book still takes time. What made you decide on those assets, and how are you leveraging those assets to sign more business?
It certainly has to be within my wheelhouse of what I know. And interest, I think the biggest, if I can just I'm not going off the topic here, but I would say the biggest mistake I see some consultants make is that they only go and speak on podcasts or do keynotes or decide to be at events that are in their field. That is a miss, right? Because in terms of what I do, I actually want to get in front of different industry events where I am able to impact and speak to a variety of leaders. Everyone I know has similar issues in terms of all the things, the solutions I mentioned we provided. It doesn't matter. It's industry agnostic, right? So they all need it. So I do try to really look for events, podcasts where what's the audience? How large is it? Are there going to be leaders there that are decision makers that find what I have to say valuable and would like to bring it into their company in some way, shape, or form? So those are some of the things that we look at. And we don't just say it has to be in this lane, because that is in my opinion, kind of spreading myself too thin. In terms of how I chose my books, that was an interesting development. I was working at the time with a lot of organizations, including the government, who what we were starting to see, this was in 2016, 2017, is that they were running out of space and they were starting to do what was called hoteling. And I don't even know if they use that term that much anymore, but it was basically hybrid work, right? Some people will work from home, some people would be in the office, and because they didn't have enough space for everybody. Well, that was causing a lot of issues and a lot of team trust issues and frustration and conflict and lack of connection. And so this was all popping up before COVID ever happened. And I started having more and more clients asking me, how do we manage this disconnect that's happening because we're not in the office all together all the time? So I was like, this is really interesting, and I care deeply about helping people learn to work effectively together and be cohesive and have the best outcome. So I did a lot of research on it, and I started really researching what was happening in terms of work. And I ended up writing a book on virtual work and how that impacts, culture and how that impacts those dynamics. And it wasn't a year after my book came out that COVID happened. And so interestingly, I was super busy the first year of COVID, like working for Fortune 100 companies, doing tons of webinars on how do we, for leaders, how do we keep people connected? How do we keep our culture intact? How do we, it was very, very interesting. So that just kind of, I listened to what my clients were asking me, right? And I recognized there was a problem that needed to be fixed. It was in my lane to some degree. I cared about it. It impacted what I was helping people actually accomplish, in my consulting business. And so I dove into becoming an expert and doing research. I did a survey study with many, many companies and gathered my own data, published that research. That's how I got contacted by Wiley to write the book, because they saw my research. So, I would tell consultants, what are your clients asking you about? What are they afraid of? What's going wrong in their business? And if it is something you care about and it impacts the work that you do, why not figure out, how do I become the expert? How do you maybe do your own research on it, gather your own data so that you can actually be a thought leader in that area? So that's, in terms of the books, that's what I did.
Thank you so much for this. I think we covered a lot of grounds, and I'm going to skip the sales question back, because I think that's part of it as well, right? That's building that ecosystem where, because of your constant building of trust, authority, thought leadership, eventually when people start looking into you, when they get referred to you, they're like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. Like, let's look into this. I'm a bit curious to get your take, Tara, on right now, right after 20 plus years of running this business. What's your number one challenge right now? What would you say that is? Curious to hear your thoughts.
All right, I'll tell you what's happening right now, because we just
we're in for a ride.
Yeah, I would say companies right now are making the mistake that AI can do the work, right? They are assuming that, I'll just give you one example. A lot of companies I work with have learning and development teams, and they're pulling a lot of stuff that I might consult with them on and using AI as their consultant, basically, right? However, what I am seeing is the results they're not getting the results that they want. There's the human element isn't there. Their learning and development teams are not experienced enough to know how to get the right information out of AI, and information that is valid, truthful, effective, trustworthy, all of those things. But what I am seeing right now, the challenge that I am facing it's almost like let's wait and let's go ahead and let you try this because I know you're going to come back pretty soon and realize that didn't work. So what we're in the midst of obviously is a huge transformational change in the world. And of course, people are going to try to figure out how do we use this to the best of our ability, and companies are going to try to figure out how do we use this to be more efficient, save money, time, etc. Great, that's great. And there's a lot of trying it right now. And I think what we're going to hopefully see is kind of like how do we marry the two to get the best outcome? And that's not quite there yet because it's new, so to speak. That's the biggest challenge I'm facing.
And so I guess going a bit deeper in this, it's making the companies understand that whilst it's important to look at AI implementation, AI integration, leveraging is, it shouldn't be for the sake of AI. It should be to solve a real problem. But if you forget to put in the human at the center of all this is not going to lead to anything. To give some practical examples of how I see this playing out in my world, it's so funny because same thing, right? The people we typically want to work with, right now, all they have their eyes on is the next automation, the next AI tool, the next AI chatbot, like an AI chatbot on my website. And you ask them, okay, how many visitors do you get on the website right now? Oh, I don't know. And we're like, okay, so what's the AI robot for exactly? Oh, for people to be able to interact with. Fine. Two examples that we see this directly impacting the way B2B coaches and consultants market. One, and we work with a gentleman who does LinkedIn. We aren't doing LinkedIn, but like this gentleman does it. And he's like, 80% of LinkedIn is AI slop now. And people, regardless of the niche actually, will start posting regurgitated clothes, ChatGPT, Grok, whatever, you choose your LLM, content. They do it for 6 months, a year, and they're like, I don't understand why I'm not getting any business.
It's not doing anything, right?
Yeah, exactly. They were like, well, are you talking about the right stuff? Are you reaching out? Are you reaching the right people? Do you get engagement? Do you engage back to the people who engage with you? Do you DM the ones? Oh, no, I'm just putting great content. I'm like, right. So that's not going to work. In something that we do, which is outreach for the podcast, as you know, Tara.
Yeah.
A lot of people do AI automations now, scraping a website, scraping a LinkedIn profile to come up with a personalization. But therefore, everybody sounds the same. We have a human look into the person and be like, hey, I like what you did here. I would love to have you on the show. And the difference in performance between the AI written email outreach versus the human written AI outreach, we're talking about a 15 to 20x.
Yeah.
Just because, it's not as automated and AI efficient, but it works. And I say this because obviously we are in marketing, but I think this is true for any level at the company, typically where you would help Tara. And I was laughing at this together with Kyle, the gentleman who does LinkedIn, because we're like, it's good. We're automating stuff. Still doesn't work. So let's look at things that will actually move the needle.
I have a theory. I'd love to hear what you think, but I really think in the next 5 years, what we are going to see is a priority placed on things that are human. It's almost like it's going to up level this human interaction, in my opinion. And I think that's great, right? But that people will pay more for human experiences. People will pay more to do what we're doing right now. So even at work, like it's the same thing. I feel like hopefully AI is going to elevate the human experience to something that is exceptional and prioritized and worth more. That's what I really want to see, is it's worth more, which it always should have been. But I think this is forcing it in that direction. Anyway, that's my theory. What do you think about that?
So I'm going to try to put this in a way that doesn't sound too, I want the focus to be on you here, Tara. I believe that communities, conferences, in-person networking events, podcasts are the future-proof or like AI-proof lines of business. And there is a reason why we do what we're doing. It's because what we're doing right now, people listening to a true, real conversation, until we replace ourselves with AI avatars of ourselves, obviously, but not going to happen anytime soon. is how people are going to win. Because in
I
a world where everything is automated, where you can hardly trust anything,
Yeah.
showing up live on the LinkedIn feed in the middle of the afternoon on a Thursday, those are the ones still have to look into what you do, right? If people are interested into what I do, if they are interested, but at least they see that this is real. There is a connection here, and there is an interaction that is going to be more and more scarce. That's a long and winded answer.
That's it. It's
it.
going to create scarcity.
Exactly.
That is it. Thank you. That's a great way to put it.
Tara, this was an absolute masterclass on trust. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, thank you.
If people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
I would say the place I really am on quite often is LinkedIn. So you can find me Tara Powers on LinkedIn. I think you're going to tag me there, so that'll be great. But also, feel free to visit our website, which is powersresourcecenter.com. And yeah, one of the ways I stay connected with my community is I do quarterly executive forums on really important topics that are affecting work and connection at work. So I think our next one coming up, we just did one on how AI is shaping learning and development. And the next one we have coming up is on the website. So if you would like to come, just go to the website. You'll see executive forums in our menu and just request an invite. We would love to have you. They're super interactive. I'm sharing a lot of thought leadership and what I'm seeing in trends and industry, and then we're talking about it. So it's not just a one-way conversation. We actually are discussing best practices, how different companies are handling certain things. And then I'm also doing quarterly facilitator forums for my clients who, the learning and development teams, just to help them understand, how to facilitate transformational change, which is constant right now. So I stay connected as well. And if you'd like to be a part of that, would love to have you on the executive forums. Just join us for our next one. I think it's in April.
We will put all the links in the description. I can say one thing for sure, Tara, is that you've gained at least one new connection on LinkedIn out of this interview. Me, I just added you.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a wonderful week.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time. How was that, Tara?